At my own engagement party, the woman I was about to marry got down on one knee, but not for me. She turned, walked past me, and stopped in front of another man, and in that moment, before she even opened her mouth, I knew something was very, very wrong. My name is Michael Turner. I'm 43 years old. I built my life the hard way, slow, steady, and honest. No shortcuts, no handouts. A construction business that started with 2 trucks and turned into something real, respectable, stable, and for a long time, I thought I had finally built a life worth sharing. That's where Vanessa came in. I met Vanessa 2 years before that night. She had a way about her, confident, polished, the kind of woman people noticed the second she entered a room. She told me she admired discipline, hard work, loyalty. Looking back now, I realized she wasn't admiring me. She was studying me, and I didn't see it. Not until it was too late. The engagement party was her idea. She insisted on something memorable. A rooftop venue in downtown Chicago. String lights, live music, a full guest list. Not just family and friends, but my business partners, investors, clients. At the time, I thought she wanted to celebrate. Now I know, she wanted witnesses. That night, everything felt perfect. People were laughing. Glasses were clinking. Music filled the air. Vanessa stayed close to me most of the evening, smiling, holding my arm, playing the part perfectly. If there were cracks, she hid them well. Then, halfway through the night, she tapped her glass. That sound, it changed everything. "Can I have everyone's attention?" she said. The music faded, the crowd turned, and Vanessa stepped forward, like she had been waiting for this moment her entire life. She looked at me first, smiled, then turned away, and walked straight toward a man standing near the back. I felt something cold settle in my chest, because I recognized him. Ethan Cole, a junior investor I had recently brought into a project. Smart, ambitious, and suddenly, at the center of something I didn't understand, Vanessa stopped in front of him, reached into her purse, and pulled out a small velvet box. That's when I realized, this wasn't a mistake, this was planned, and what happened next destroyed everything I thought I knew about her. Vanessa opened the ring box, and in that moment, time didn't slow down, it stopped. Inside the box was a diamond ring, not the one I gave her, a different one, bigger, flashier, chosen for someone else. She looked up at Ethan, smiling, like I wasn't even there, like I had never existed. Then she said it, clear, confident, practiced. "Ethan, will you marry me?" Let that sink in. At my own engagement party, my fiancé proposed to another man. For a second, no one moved, no one spoke. It was like the entire room forgot how to breathe. Then came the whispers. "Is this a joke? Wait, what's happening? Is this part of something?" Phones came out. People started recording. Because moments like that, they don't stay private. And that's when I realized, this wasn't just betrayal. This was a performance. Ethan looked stunned, but not shocked enough, not confused enough, which told me something important. He didn't plan it, but he knew more than he was showing. Vanessa was still on one knee, still smiling, still waiting, like she was expecting applause. I looked around the room, at my business partners, my friends, my family, all of them watching me, waiting to see what I would do. That's when something changed inside me. Not anger, not panic, something colder, clearer, because in that exact moment, everything started making sense. The late night calls she would step outside to take, the sudden interest in my business meetings, the way she pushed for Ethan to be included in projects. It wasn't random, it was a setup, and I wasn't the partner, I was the bridge. Vanessa lowered her voice, soft enough that only Ethan and I could hear. "Say yes," she whispered. Ethan hesitated, just for a second, then slowly, he reached out his hand, and that's when I knew, if I didn't act now, I would lose more than just her, because this wasn't just about love anymore, it was about everything I had built. I stepped forward, calm, steady, picked up the microphone, and said one word, "Congratulations." The room went completely silent, because no one expected that. Not them, not Vanessa, not Ethan, and what I said next turned their perfect moment into a complete disaster. "Congratulations." That's all I said. One word, calm, steady, controlled, but inside, everything had already changed. You see, people expect a man to explode in a moment like that. Yell, break things, walk out, lose control. That's what makes it entertaining. But I wasn't interested in being entertaining. I was interested in being remembered. Vanessa slowly stood up from her knee. Her smile didn't disappear, but it cracked, just slightly, because she didn't expect calm. She expected chaos. Michael, she said softly, almost like a warning, like I was about to ruin something for her. I smiled back, not warmly, not angrily, just enough to let her know I understood everything now. Ethan shifted uncomfortably beside her, still holding that ring, still unsure if he had just won something or stepped into a trap. And the truth, he had no idea. I looked out at the crowd, every face locked in, phone still recording, waiting. Perfect. Exactly what she wanted. An audience. But she forgot one thing. Audiences don't choose sides. They follow truth. I think, I said into the microphone, if we're celebrating something this big, we should be honest about how we got here. A ripple moved through the room. Confusion, curiosity, tension. Vanessa's expression tightened. Just a little more. Michael, don't, she whispered. That was the first time all night. She sounded nervous. And that's when I knew I wasn't the one losing control. She was. 3 months ago, I continued calmly. I started noticing small things, details that didn't quite add up. I took a slow step forward, not toward her, toward the center, where everyone could see me clearly. Because if you're going to expose the truth, you don't hide while doing it. Late night phone calls, I said. Meetings I wasn't told about. Conversations that stopped when I walked into the room. Ethan looked at Vanessa, really looked at her this time, and I saw it. Doubt. And doubt is dangerous, because once it starts, it spreads fast. Vanessa forced a laugh. Oh my God, Michael, this isn't the time. It's exactly the time, I said, still calm, still steady. Because now, I wasn't reacting, I was leading. I didn't accuse, I continued. I didn't argue, I verified. The room leaned in. You could feel it. That shift, from shock to anticipation. Vanessa's confidence. It was fading. Fast. Ethan slowly lowered his hand, the ring still between his fingers. But now, it didn't look like a victory anymore. And then I said the one sentence that changed everything. I have the proof. And what I showed next didn't just end their engagement, it destroyed them both. I have the proof. The second those words left my mouth, the energy in the room shifted. Not curiosity anymore. Not confusion. Something heavier. Something dangerous. Fear. Vanessa's face changed instantly. That confident smile she had been holding on to all night, it disappeared. Completely. Michael, stop, she said, her voice low now. Urgent. Not for me. For herself. That was the moment she realized this wasn't part of her plan anymore. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't rush. Didn't even look at her. Instead, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Because when you're about to change everything, you don't hesitate. There's a screen behind us, I said calmly. Let's use it. A few people turned, others stepped aside, and within seconds, every eye in the room was locked onto that massive display. Vanessa took a step toward me. Michael, we can talk about this privately. I finally looked at her, and for the first time that night, she looked scared. Not embarrassed, not angry, scared. Privately, I repeated. Then I shook my head slightly. No, you wanted this public. Silence. Deep, heavy silence. I connected my phone. The screen flickered, then lit up, and what appeared first wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was worse. Emails. Dozens of them. Vanessa's name. Ethan's name. Dates. Attachments. Conversations. The room leaned forward. Phones lowered. People stopped whispering. Now they were reading. And once people see the truth with their own eyes, there's no going back. I scrolled slowly, deliberately, letting every word sink in. Michael trusts you completely. That's why this is easy. Once the deal goes through, we're set. A murmur spread through the crowd. Low, uncomfortable. Ethan's face went pale. Vanessa, what is this? He said. She didn't answer, because there was no answer that could fix this. I tapped again. Another file opened. Bank transfers. Private accounts. Money moving in ways it shouldn't. And then, the final message. I'll leave him after the engagement. That's when it'll hurt the most. And we'll have everything we need. Gasps filled the room. Real ones. Vanessa's hand flew to her mouth. But it was too late. Everything was out. And just like that, the woman who controlled the room lost it. Ethan stepped back, actually stepped away from her, like she was someone he didn't recognize. Tell me this isn't real, he said. Vanessa reached for him. Ethan, I can explain. But he pulled his hand back, and that's when I said the one thing that made it even worse. This, I looked straight at them. This is just the beginning, because what they didn't know was that I hadn't even shown the worst part yet. This is just the beginning. The room went dead silent. Not a single whisper, not a single movement, because deep down, everyone felt it. Something worse was coming. Vanessa shook her head quickly. No, no, Michael, you've made your point. This is enough. Enough. No, not even close. I turned back to the screen. Calm, focused, precise. Because this wasn't about emotion anymore. This was about truth. And truth, it doesn't stop halfway. Ethan's voice cut in, sharper now. What else is there? He demanded. That was the moment. The exact moment. He stopped being her partner and started becoming part of the audience. And once that happens, there's no going back. I tapped my phone again. Another file opened. This one wasn't emails, wasn't numbers. It was a recording. Vanessa's face drained of color. Michael, don't. I pressed play. Her voice filled the entire rooftop. Clear, unmistakable. I don't love him. A sharp gasp cut through the crowd. I never did. Ethan froze, completely still. I just needed access. His business, his contacts, everything. And just like that, every illusion shattered. Vanessa closed her eyes like she could block it out. But the words kept coming. He's predictable, loyal, easy to control. Ethan took a slow step back, then another. Because now, this wasn't just betrayal of me. It was betrayal of him too. And betrayal shared is betrayal multiplied. I paused the recording. Let the silence settle. Let the truth breathe. Ethan looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Was any of this real? He asked. Vanessa rushed toward him. Yes, Ethan, listen to me. Things changed. Changed? He snapped. You were using him, and you think I'm different? She hesitated, just for a second. And that hesitation? That was her biggest mistake, because in that 1 second, he got his answer. Ethan let out a bitter laugh. Oh wow, I wasn't special. And just like that, she lost him too. The man she thought she was gaining walked away. Vanessa turned back to me, desperate now, angry, panicked. You planned this, she said. I met her eyes, steady, unshaken. No, I said quietly. You did. The crowd wasn't whispering anymore. Now, they were watching, judging, seeing her for exactly who she was. And as she stood there, alone, exposed, and unraveling, I said the words that hit harder than anything else that night. I trusted you. And what I did next didn't just end her reputation, it destroyed her future. I trusted you. Those 3 words hung in the air, heavy, final. Vanessa opened her mouth, but nothing came out, because for the first time, she had no control over the story. The crowd wasn't on her side anymore, not even neutral. They had seen everything, heard everything. And once people see who you really are, they don't forget. Vanessa straightened her posture, tried to recover, tried to rebuild that confident image. You think this ruins me? She said, her voice shaking just slightly. I'll recover from this. That's when I realized. She still didn't understand. This wasn't about embarrassment. This was about consequences. I nodded slowly. You're right, I said calmly. This alone won't ruin you. For a split second, hope flickered in her eyes. And then I took it away. But what comes next will. The room went still again, because people could feel it. This wasn't over. Not even close. Ethan stopped walking, turned back slightly. Even he wanted to hear this. Because now, this wasn't just a scandal. This was a collapse. You see, I continued. I didn't just prepare for tonight. I stepped closer. Not aggressive. Not emotional. Precise. I prepared for everything. Vanessa's expression tightened. Again, that fear. It was back. Stronger now. And fear tells the truth faster than words ever can. You used my business, I said. My contacts. My deals. I paused. Let it sink in. So I made one simple decision. Vanessa shook her head slowly. No, you wouldn't. I looked directly at her and said it. I already pulled you out of everything. Silence. Deep. Immediate. What she whispered. All access. All accounts. All projects. Her breathing changed. Faster. Shallow. Because now, this wasn't emotional anymore. This was real. You're not part of any deal. I continued. You're not connected to any investor. I let the final part land slowly. And by tomorrow morning, every company you tried to leverage through me will know exactly why. The crowd reacted instantly. Not loudly, but enough. Because everyone understood what that meant. Reputation? Gone. Opportunities? Gone. Trust? Gone. Vanessa took a step back, like the ground under her had shifted. You can't do that, she said. I tilted my head slightly. Watch me. And just like that, everything she thought she had secured disappeared. Ethan let out a low breath, almost like he was realizing how close he came to being part of it. And as Vanessa stood there, losing everything piece by piece, I delivered the final blow of the night. This wasn't revenge. I paused, looked straight at her. It was protection. But what happened the next morning was far worse than anything that night. The next morning, everything changed. Not slowly, not quietly, all at once. Because the internet doesn't wait. By 8 a.m., videos from the engagement party were everywhere. Different angles, different voices, but the same moment. Vanessa on one knee, the proposal, the screen, the truth. And once something like that goes public, you don't control the narrative anymore. I woke up to my phone vibrating nonstop. Calls, messages, notifications, friends, business partners, even people I hadn't spoken to in years. But I didn't rush to respond, because I already knew what they were seeing, and more importantly, I knew what was coming next. Across the city, Vanessa was waking up to the same storm. But for her, it wasn't curiosity, it was damage. Her name was trending locally. Clips of the recording had already been edited, reposted, analyzed. People weren't asking questions anymore. They were making judgments. And public judgment? It's brutal. By mid-morning, the first consequence hit. One of the companies she had been trying to partner with pulled out. No warning, no discussion, just a formal email. And that was only the beginning. Then another, and another. Meetings canceled, calls ignored, doors closed. Because in business, trust isn't optional. It's everything. And once it's gone, so are you. I sat in my office, calm, reviewing everything, not celebrating, not reacting, just watching. Because this wasn't about watching her fall. It was about making sure she couldn't stand back up the same way. That's when something happened I didn't expect. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something told me this call mattered. I answered. Michael Turner. A calm, professional voice said, "Yes, this is Daniel Reeves, from internal compliance at one of your partner firms." I sat up slightly. Now I was listening carefully. Because when compliance calls you, it's never small. "We've reviewed the materials you provided," he continued, "and there's something you need to know." A pause, just long enough to tighten the tension. "This situation is bigger than you think." My expression changed for the first time that day. "Bigger how?" I asked. Another pause. Then he said it. "There are transactions linked to Vanessa that don't just raise ethical concerns. They may be illegal." And what I uncovered next didn't just threaten her reputation, it threatened her freedom. The call ended. I sat there, heart calm, mind racing, because what Daniel Reeves had just said changed everything. Vanessa's empire built on lies, manipulation, and deceit was cracking. And this time, there was no turning back. By mid-morning, the first legal notice arrived. A subpoena. Vanessa's face on the document made it feel like she was staring right at me. It was subtle, cold, calculating, and she knew this wasn't a small problem. This was serious. A ripple that could destroy everything she had ever touched. Emails started coming. Banks flagged accounts. Lawyers she had trusted began to distance themselves. Because once the law smells trouble, it doesn't wait for explanations. I watched carefully, kept records, kept everything organized. Because revenge isn't just emotion, it's strategy. And Vanessa's strategy? Gone. She reached out to Ethan first. Desperate, frantic. "Michael, I can explain everything," she texted. "I can fix this, please." Ethan didn't reply. Not immediately. Not at all. Because he had already seen the truth. And once someone like Ethan sees betrayal clearly, there's no coming back. Next, Vanessa tried to reach me. Through calls, through texts, through mutual friends. She even tried to meet me in person. I let her, just long enough to let her see the calm in my eyes. And that was the real weapon, because she had spent months manipulating, controlling, and intimidating everyone around her. And I didn't flinch once. I simply watched her unravel. "Michael," she said, voice trembling. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. I leaned back slightly. "Why'd?" I repeated. "Because you left me no choice." She gasped. And that's when she realized. This wasn't personal. This was inevitable. A knock came at the door. 2 men in suits entered. Vanessa froze. One handed her an envelope. Inside, court summons, federal investigation notice, full documentation of her illegal transactions. Her eyes went wide, hands shaking. You can't," she whispered. I stood, calm, steady. "This isn't me," I said softly. This is the law. And just like that, the woman who thought she could control everyone in the room was finally powerless. Vanessa sat alone in her penthouse apartment, once the crown of control, power, and influence, now reduced to a fragile illusion. The phone stopped ringing. The calls that once praised her brilliance vanished. Emails marked urgent now went unanswered. Meetings canceled. Investors gone. Friends disappeared. She had built an empire on manipulation, but she had underestimated one thing: karma, in the form of preparation. I watched from a distance. No gloating, no shouting, just the quiet satisfaction of precision, because true revenge doesn't need noise. It doesn't need anger. It just needs timing. The law had already started its work. Her assets were frozen. Investigators were tracing every suspicious transaction, every hidden account, every misleading document. Vanessa's panic grew by the hour. She realized that the people she had leaned on, Ethan, business partners, even legal advisors, were no longer shields. Ethan, now fully aware, had walked away. No words, no confrontation, just silence. The silence that screams louder than accusations ever could. And in that silence, Vanessa understood something crucial. The higher you build yourself on lies, the harder you fall. By evening, the first news alerts hit. High-profile engagement scandal escalates. Investigation under federal review. Socialite's empire frozen amid legal investigation. The social media storm was merciless. She tried to call her allies. They refused. Text messages went unanswered. Even her lawyer hesitated before returning her calls. And that's when she saw it. A message from me. Simple, direct. This isn't personal. It's protection. Remember that. Her hands shook. Her empire crumbled. Her control gone. I didn't need to finish her publicly. The law, the evidence, and the betrayal I exposed were finishing her quietly, efficiently, irreversibly. And the ultimate truth? She wasn't just losing power. She was losing herself. By nightfall, Vanessa understood she would never recover the life she thought she owned. And as I looked at the city's skyline from my office, calm, steady, and in control, I whispered, some lessons can't be taught. They must be experienced. Tomorrow everything Vanessa thought untouchable would be gone, and there would be no one left to protect her. The morning was quiet, too quiet. Vanessa sat in her office, the weight of everything crashing down around her. No calls, no messages, no allies, just the realization that her carefully constructed world had collapsed completely. And then, the final notification hit. An official letter from the federal investigation, a summary of every illegal transaction she had attempted to hide. Proof of deception, proof of fraud, proof that the empire she thought untouchable was built on sand. Her face turned pale, her hands shook, her pride crushed. Across town, I watched the headlines update in real time. Socialite and businesswoman loses empire in federal investigation. Public fallout from engagement scandal continues. Legal consequences intensify. I smiled, not triumphantly, not angrily, calmly, precisely, because this was never about ego. This was about justice. Vanessa's world had been built on manipulation, but I had built mine on preparation, patience, strategy, timing. By noon, her financial accounts were frozen. By evening, the media had pieced together every scandalous move. By nightfall, Vanessa realized she had no options left. Even Ethan, the man she once thought could be swayed, had cut ties completely. The woman who once commanded attention and influence now faced isolation, legal consequences, and public disgrace. And the final twist? This wasn't just exposure. It was complete control of the narrative. I sent a final message, simple, direct. This isn't revenge. This is protection. Remember that. Her empire gone, her allies gone, her reputation irreparably damaged. And as she sat there, broken, I realized something important. Revenge isn't about anger. Revenge isn't about drama. It's about balance, justice. I hadn't just reclaimed what was mine. I had ensured that truth and fairness prevailed. And in that quiet victory, I understood something even deeper. The most powerful revenge is living well, staying calm, and letting those who betrayed you fall by their own hands. Vanessa never recovered. Her empire gone, her influence erased, her control never again. And I continued my life, stronger, wiser, and free from manipulation. Some battles aren't loud. Some victories aren't explosive. Sometimes, the quietest moves are the most unforgettable. If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe, share this with someone who's facing betrayal, and remember, patience, strategy, and truth always win.